Want to 10x your growth? Discover how only 3 growth hacks in 10 days can change everything. Welcome to the 10-Day Growth Hacking Challenge with your host, Nader Sabri. Today we're here with Shamimi, who is shaking things up when it comes to education for entrepreneurs, especially when it comes to mindset development. He focuses on an extremely interesting niche. Before I dig into that, if you want more information about Shamimi, go below. If you want to know more about his story and what he's up to in changing the world, head over to the kickoff video. What Shamimi does is he helps entrepreneurs, mostly what we refer to as non-voluntary entrepreneurs, a segment of entrepreneurship that is not well recognized, let alone probably the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurship. What's the difference? A voluntary entrepreneur is somebody who's decided to go into entrepreneurship consciously. Somebody who's involuntary is somebody who has fallen into entrepreneurship in a constructive way. That is, of course, usually through some form of a redundancy or changing career path that has led them to entrepreneurship. The challenges between the two different entrepreneurs are very different. Shamimi is tackling the latter of the two, and he's working in a very creative way to make that work. Welcome aboard, Shamimi. How you doing?
Thank you, Nader Sabri. I think it's a great day. I've just been having a number of conversations, brainstorming sessions again, and I'm just, I guess, reiterating the solutions that we've been fulfilling so far.
Awesome.
Getting some great feedback.
Awesome. So before we get started, for those tuning in, this is all based on the growth thinking methodology, which is available here. If you want to do what we do in the 10-Day Growth Hacking Challenge, this is your answer. Let's get started. We're here today on growth hack number 3. Before we get started, we always like to take a little bit of a review to see if any updates have happened in the sense of results or major impacts or transformations from hack number 1 or 2. Any updates?
Absolutely. So we've been continuing our webinar series, which is the storytelling platform. And what we've done is we've changed it to focus on webinars and workshops. So it's encompassing the elements that are told in the story and using it to go through some exercises for the community, from the attendees, and they go through some great workshops and create some inspiration through what they've learned.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I remember last time, like, you had, I think, accumulated 100 people, correct? Or am I?
Yes.
I think you're right. Okay, awesome. Has that grown in any way? Any traction? Any signals in that space from that hack?
I think more importantly than the numbers is the number of feedback that we're getting.
Perfect.
And I think that has been, telling us that people are actually engaged. They're telling us what they liked and what they want to see more of. And so it's been very fruitful from that perspective.
Fantastic. And that's signals. I mean, just for those tuning in, really what Shamimi is referring to here is what we're always looking for, which are signals rather than results. And he articulated it exactly in the right way. It's not about growing the 100 that we initially acquired. It's about going deeper into those 100 and finding the signals of where to go next. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for when we growth hack. We're looking for signals, not results, because signals will automatically bring in those results. It takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, doesn't it, Shamimi? Looking for the signals, right?
Absolutely.
It's a different mindset. It's a very different way of looking at things.
Yeah, because the challenge that we used to have is trying to grow those numbers, but without really understanding whether we're going in the right direction. And you're just thinking numbers is telling us direction, but it's not. So the magnitude is as you mentioned, the signals.
Yeah, no, perfect. I'm glad. I'm ecstatic that you've done that, because my contenders who do this are the guys and girls who really thrive. I'm telling you from now, once their mindset shifts, just that little tiny switch goes from signal to from results to signal, everything in their world really literally changes. So no, thank you for articulating that. That's very well done. So hack number 3, what is it? What are the results? And where are we with it? Super excited to hear this. Go for it, man.
So one of the biggest issues that we were facing was trying to create that engagement from our audience that creates those signals that you talk about. And so what we've done, as I mentioned earlier, is we've adapted our webinar series to include workshops. And these workshops are essentially snippets of what we'll be doing ultimately in the full mindful startup program for all entrepreneurs that want to get into this and have the real, dedication and time commitment towards creating their startup. And so what we've been doing is not only having that engagement in those workshops, but we're taking it online onto the platform and keep continuing to create stories on that platform. And so that was the beauty part of this. It's like the journey doesn't end at the end of the workshop, it continues. And that's
Awesome.
what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this hack, let's recap. So this hack is about taking people out of the workshop and moving them into further training. Is that okay?
Yeah,
okay.
It's making the most of the micro workshops that we're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Done. Yeah. And micro workshops is a massively, again, stepping back again, micro workshops, as we talked about earlier, is a massive growth hack in itself. There's a couple of guys in the US who've identified this. One guy who's leading it at the moment, I unfortunately, his name slips my mind at the moment, but he'd run these experiments where he'd have these 1 hour plus courses, like plus, it's a lot. Then there would be like the 1 hour, and then he'd work his way all the way down to a couple of minutes. And he wanted to identify where the sweet spot was. And he found it was between 10 to 15 minutes and classified as micro workshops. So 10 to 15 minutes is actually a lot of time when you come to think about it, when we're in a world where people are learning on TikTok in 60 seconds, right? And you've just multiplied that by, 10, 15 times as an opportunity to the window to actually train somebody. And I really believe that, people, as the common word goes, we're zoomed out. I'm a big pro I'm very pro Zoom, but what Zoom has done is that as people shifted in the pandemic and we were all like, hey, we would do a 1 hour meeting, a 1 hour training together physically, or 2 hours. And so we would switch it over to Zoom exactly in the same time frame, but people would get tired. They became fatigued. They weren't able to focus. The interaction of, other people around you with their energy wasn't there. And so people got zoomed out, right? And as a result of that, these micro workshops are emerging, right? And I think you're tapping into something as a trend that's going to just explode. Not very many people see this. And as those who've tuned into other challenges, the biggest growth hacks are those that nobody sees. They're secrets, actually, or relatively not well-known growth hacks. And those are usually the most potent areas to tap into. So stepping back, what are you going to do about these micro workshops, or what have you done, or what has happened already, and what do you plan to do? And next steps with it.
The approach that we're taking is streamlining these workshops to a point where they're happening on a weekly basis. That way, when we're creating engagement, the engagement is also happening on a weekly basis and continues. So we're creating that active involvement on the platform and really validating what we're talking about when it creates the mindset of an entrepreneur, what it means to help give that courage and inspiration to those, as you mentioned earlier, involuntary entrepreneurs, to the point where they can take the inspiration of what's been said and what's been done and take it forward and create new stories of their own. And that's what we're trying to achieve now.
Yeah. And so you're trying to create frequency here, right? Which is like, how long will these mini workshops be? Will they still be within that 10, 15 minute time frame, or do you have some different formats in place?
So right now, we're focusing on a half an hour workshop. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're involving groups. And when we're involving groups, there's more conversations that are happening. It requires a bit more time.
Is this physical or digital? Physical or digital?
This is all online. This is
online,
all on Zoom.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So we're creating essentially breakout rooms where people are going into groups and having conversations, active conversations. And this is creating what the other part is, which is vital for building a community, is meaningful relationships. So that's why we've went for the half an hour as opposed to the 10, 15 minute option.
Got it. Okay. And I think, until you actually experiment, you won't actually really know. 30 minutes might be your magic number, and it may not be. And take the feedback in quickly as possible. Remember, signals, right? We're looking for signals, like
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So maybe it could be like, 10 minutes, like as a group, and then you break out into 10 minutes, and then you close off with 10 minutes, 5 minutes Q&A, right? Or breaking that last minute. I mean, you have to figure out that formula and then kind of like measure that formula, because we would need to know, like, where's the sweet spot? Is the whole 30? Can you shrink it? Does it need to increase? If it's 30, how do we use that 30 in completely, in a well-structured, creative way that people still keep stimulated with what you're doing? So I think exercises, I don't know if you have any exercises set up for them, assuming that you break them out, there will be. So that might be a great way to kind of keep people engaged. I mean, in general, in a physical situation, that would be amazing. Digital, I've seen a whole range of this. Some of them work okay. Some of them work at all. But I've rarely seen one work very well. And that's me. But that doesn't mean there isn't anything better out there. But I would challenge you to really measure this very carefully, looking for those signals so that you can perfect your format. In fact, we have another contender in the US. And so she has this, it's an educational element as well, completely different field. And we talked about mastering the format. And so she's been experimenting. We literally have this Excel file where we're experimenting with signals to see, like, how do people respond to different elements to these formats. And how we started, and I would recommend the same to you, is we went and researched everybody else's formats, right? Like, what is really strong about this guy and or this person's format, and how do we intermix it, or how do we, so we came up with all these formulas to come up with all these formats, and we start just testing and testing and testing until we get signals. And so she's finished the challenge. She's doing very well. I don't know which format has worked, but we'll see at the end. So I suggest the same playbook for you as well, right? Map it out, know it really well, and just nail that format, because the format is going to be the key. It's not the time, not the channel, not maybe even not in the content, believe it or not, as strange as that might sound. It's the format. TED Talk was all about the format. They filled the content in by bringing other people. You see, the content it's relevant, but it wasn't what made it. What made it was the format itself. So there you go. Yeah.
Perfect. I completely agree with what you said.
Yeah,
and I'm hopefully, by creating this frequency, we're also going to be creating that kind of feedback that's going to be able to help us streamline that process and develop that format.
Big time, big time. And the great part about the frequencies, you don't need that many people. Like, remember we were talking about the 110, 100, 1000 and all that. And so those increments, like, you just need incremental signals initially, and then you work with it, right? Either the signal gets stronger, or it stays consistent, or dies away. And that gives us the ability where to take direction with these experiments. So yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. So anything else on hack number 3?
No, I think we're definitely already starting to see some developments in this hack number 3, and we're looking to streamline this and make this mature to the point where we can actually take this forward on a long-term scale.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Shamimi Chowdhury, shaking things up when it comes to the development of mindsets for entrepreneurs in the involuntary entrepreneur sector, which is an underdeveloped and underserviced area. He's going to do very well at this. I am 100% sure with the way he's going about this. To get more information about Shamimi, click below. To know more about his story and his background, go to the kickoff video and get a little bit more background. Shamimi, awesome. We'll see you on the review.